Shocking morning prayer. How 3 minutes can change your life forever. The sun dared to peek over the horizon, casting unnatural shadows in the sleepy town of Millfield. It was supposed to be like any other Tuesday, a sleepy morning drenched in the smell of coffee and cereal. But today was different. Today, whispers of a bizarre 3-minute prayer were weaving through the air, electrifying hearts with suspense and curiosity. They said those who breathed the words would unlock an unseen door, a raw, powerful energy that could twist fate itself. Old Mrs. Thompson at the corner diner swore she saw the town's mayor weep tears of joy after reciting it. Joy! That man hadn't smiled in years. What was it about those 3 minutes? Some claimed shadows flickered around them. Others felt warmth blooming in their chests. People couldn't explain it. They just knew it was something big brewing beneath the surface. One by one, the townsfolk were drawn, like moths to a flame, hungry for change, clinging to hope with trembling hands. A group of teenagers gathered under the oak tree, faces painted with thrill and fear, as they shared stories of miraculous moments attributed to that simple prayer. But the excitement cranked the tension up a notch, especially as word spread of a girl who vanished right after whispering it. Gone. Just like that. Was it a miracle or a curse? The kind of suspense that freezes everything around you, the kind that makes your heart race and hands shake. Anxiety hummed like a live wire as more people dared to speak the words, sharing glances filled with secrecy and wonder, echoing thoughts of what if. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Then, just as curiosity bloomed, darkness crept in. After reciting the prayer, Jack Donovan, the town's skeptic, staggered as if struck, his eyes wide with terror. It's not what you think. He gasped before he collapsed. The crowd gasped, whispering, what does he know? What did he see? The taste of fear mingled with tension, echoing in the wind. The event of his sudden panic hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. As whispers spiraled and eyes widened in dread, the town was on edge. What force had they awakened? The question pulsed like a heartbeat. Jack's fate now loomed over Millfield, a ticking time bomb nobody dared to approach, leaving everyone to ponder what lay just beneath their reality. Would anyone dare to recite the prayer again? And what awaited those who did? The silence that followed Jack Donovan's collapse felt heavy, like a thick fog settling over the crowd. Faces, usually bright with morning cheer, were now clouded with worry. Murmurs bounced from one person to another like a game of telephone, each retelling laced with fear. Was he cursed? Someone whispered. What did he see? Another stammered under the weight of uncertainty. Mrs. Thompson's diner was now a hub of fearful chatter. Folks gathered around tables, coffee mugs clutched nervously in trembling hands. No one was hungry anymore. The hearty breakfast special sat untouched as eyes darted towards the door, awaiting any news about Jack. Flashes of fear darted into hearts. The shadow of what had happened hovered ominously over every head in the corner. Emily Rivera, a high school junior and one of the first to recite the prayer, felt a chill crawl up her spine. She had chanted the words last night while gazing at the moon from her bedroom window. Had she drawn something out there, something beyond her comprehension? Thoughts raced in her mind, battling the thrill she'd initially felt. Turning to her friend Mia, she felt the knot in her stomach twist tighter. What if we're next? She whispered, terror creeping in her voice. Mia shook her head, trying to shake off the unease. But people said it brought good things. What if Jack just had a panic attack? Maybe it was all just bad timing. Yet even as she spoke, doubt gnawed at her resolve. The fear of the unknown hung in the air, thick enough to choke on. Across town, visions of Jack sprawled on the ground, too vivid in the townsfolk's minds, calling on those who had recited the prayer to reflect on their own experiences. Steve Johnson, the mayor, haunted by his recent emotional release, connected dots in rapid succession. He remembered the strangeness, feelings of a power he couldn't quite grasp. What if it's a doorway, he thought, brows furrowing with deepening worry. As the minutes rolled on, Jessica, Jack's sister, drove like wildfire to the clinic. Her hands gripped the wheel tightly, knuckles white, heart racing with fear for her brother. Each flash of headlights that appeared like a moment of hope dashed her spirit when she realized it wasn't him. "Please, don't take him from us," she murmured, a plea to whatever force lurked in the shadows. Just outside the clinic, townsfolk gathered, their faces a mix of concern and desire for answers. The tension rippled through them, pushing them closer together as they waited for the news like anxious players before the start of the game. A faint cry broke the air, and gasps swallowed the murmurs. A figure stumbled out of the clinic, covered in shadows, eyes wide and unseeing, and then the town collectively held its breath. It was Jack, but he was different, changed, eyes glassy, sweat glistening on his skin. Somehow, he looked both terrified and enlightened, as if he had glimpsed something profound. The crowd surged forward, desperate to hear what had happened, what secrets lay behind the veil he had touched. "Jack!" Jessica cried, breaking through the throng, her voice urgent. He turned slowly, mouth twitching as if it wanted to spill secrets but was trapped inside. Fear gripped each person present, yet they couldn't look away. Slowly, he raised a trembling hand, the hushed tone of his breathing electrifying the air around them. "It changes everything," he whispered, and before he could say more, a voice shouted from the back, chilling everyone to their bones. "What do you mean? What do we do?" As the crowd pressed in, Jack's lips cracked into a semblance of a smile, shadowed by an echo of pain, as he prepared to reveal the truth behind the prayer, a truth that could shatter Millfield forever. Everyone held onto their breaths, but deep down, what lay beyond Jack's words felt like a dark pit ready to swallow them whole. What secrets would he unveil? Would it save them or doom them? The air crackled with tension as Jack's gaze darted over the crowd, scanning familiar faces lost in dread and curiosity. What had he seen that cool night? What secret knowledge now burned behind his eyes? Jessica's heart pounded in rhythm with the anxious whispers surrounding her. She held on to hope, but the image of Jack sprawled on the floor wouldn't let go. "Jack, please," she urged, stepping closer, her voice breaking. "You have to tell us. We need to know." The crowd quieted, anticipation hanging heavy in the air. Jack's mouth opened, breath shaky, but it was as if something held him back. They looked at him, clinging to the weight of his words, desperate for a lifeline or a warning. Jack's fingers trembled, and for a moment his expression flickered between anguish and something resembling clarity. Something came through. He finally began, words slow and deliberate. "When I recited the prayer, it opened a doorway." He swallowed hard, moisture glistening in his eyes. Not to something good. It invited something in. A chill rippled through the crowd, and Jessica felt her stomach lurch. "Invited what?" Someone shouted, voice shaking. "Everyone says it brings blessings. How can that be bad?" Another voice lamented, doubt gnawing at their resolve. Jack shook his head slowly. "It isn't that simple. This power, it's relentless. It shows you truths, hidden dangers. It feeds on fear and pain." He hesitated, and panic surged through Jessica. Was he truly here? Or had that thing taken him hostage, twisted his mind in terrible ways? A piercing scream sliced through the air. A mother, clutching her child, looked shaken, eyes flaring wide with exposure to something unseen. He shouldn't have been touched by it. We never should have said the words. The crowd erupted in chaos. Faces paled, fear fueling an exodus toward the diner, desperate to conceal themselves from whatever malevolence loomed around them. Jack's eyes widened as he shouted, trying to regain control. Listen to me. I felt it crawling in my mind. Murmurs cascaded louder, drowning out his plea as folks scurried away. Only Jessica remained, hoisted up on a wave of emotion, her love for Jack overriding the urge to flee. "Jack, please," she implored, forcing her way through the mass retreat. "You gotta be brave. Tell us how to stop it." He looked at her with a mix of gratitude and sorrow. "The prayer, it has other words. Not just the ones we said." "What other words?" She gasped, feeling hope flicker. Their sudden tremor racked his body, fingers clutching at the front of his shirt. "They're hidden." He staggered back as another wave of energy coursed through him, his voice deepening, resonating with something otherworldly. "You'll find them not in the open, but where the shadows linger most." Jessica and the remaining townsfolk gasped, realizing that in the very heart of Millfield lay buried secrets they had never sought to unearth. The hairs on the back of her neck stood on end. What could this mean for them all? Then, as abruptly as it started, Jack's expression faded, his eyes dulling like a candle flickering under a breath. "I can't hold it back. What do we do?" Someone pleaded once more, panic bubbling to the surface. The truth is the key," Jack murmured, his head hanging low, as if surrendering to a weight they couldn't see. The crowd stirred, uncertainty ranking higher than before, a pool of dread filling the space where hope had once been. "Are we to trust him?" Someone whispered that in that moment, Jessica understood. They couldn't ignore this any longer. The truth had to come out, but at what cost? She could feel something awakening in the pit of her gut. "We have to find it," she declared, meeting Jack's dazed stare with urgency. "Unlock the truth before it's too late." But just beyond her words, a rumble echoed from the forest at the edge of town. Something was stirring in the shadows, ready to emerge. Something they could never anticipate. What would the truth really cost? And could they ever be ready for what lay ahead? Jessica felt a shiver travel down her spine at the ominous rumble from the forest. The townsfolk were scattering, a cacophony of confused shouts and panicked footsteps echoing behind her. Yet there she stood, fixed in place, heart racing, eyes locked on Jack. "Jack, we can't let fear win," she shouted over the chaotic retreat. "You said the truth is the key. What do we need to do?" His breath hitched, body still trembling. "Find the place," he gasped, "the place where the shadows stretch." His voice grew weak, but determination flickered in his eyes. "That's where we'll uncover the other words." Jessica's mind raced. The woods, an area of Millfield long talked about in hushed tones, rumored to be haunted. Few dared venture there. The whispers of lost paths and chilling encounters hung in the air like a dark cloud. Suddenly, a crash shattered the moment. The crowd gasped as a dark figure darted from the tree-line, moving in erratic patterns, limbs flailing wildly. Was it a person, or something else entirely? Jessica's heart sank. The creature, skin glistening like oiled stone, had glowing eyes set upon her. It twisted and snarled, a grotesque smile spreading on its face. "Run!" someone yelled, and the panic reached new heights, people pushing and shoving each other in their attempts to escape. "No!" Jack screamed, gripping Jessica's arm with surprising strength. "If we scatter, it will pick us off one by one. We must stick together." The words hung in the air, grounding her momentarily amid the chaos. She nodded, her resolve solidifying. "Then we need a plan," she said firmly, turning to the few still nearby. "If Jack is right, we have to reach the dark place together. It holds the answers." Faces tightened with fear and uncertainty, but one by one, they shared a look of determination. They had witnessed the terror, and though the odds felt insurmountable, fear would not shape their fate. As the creature lurched closer, twisting its head like a marionette on frayed strings, they formed a tight circle around Jack, each of them clutching makeshift weapons, broom handles, rocks, whatever they could find. "Stay close," Jessica shouted. "We move towards the woods. We stick to the shadows, just like Jack said." They stepped forward, hearts pounding and adrenaline surging. But they barely made it halfway when the creature lunged forward, closing the distance in a blink. Its breath was hot and rancid, the air thick with the stench of decay. "Now, push together," Jack yelled, surprising even himself with the burst of power in his voice. They surged as one. Jessica swung her broomstick, slamming it against the creature's side. It reeled, letting out a horrendous wail that echoed off the trees, sending a ripple of dread through the forest. In that moment of distraction, Jack called out, his voice breaking through the cries. "We have to find the hidden words. They might be the only way to stop this thing." He led the charge, guiding them deeper into the shadows of the trees, into the heart of darkness. Jessica's thoughts were a whirlwind. What did those words mean? Where could they find them? But they had no time for answers. Survival dictated their choices. As they entered the woods, the air thickened, branches tightening overhead like fingers choking any light. Then, just beyond the tree line, a faint glimmer caught her eye. What once seemed like a natural formation now unveiled itself. Rock carvings, ancient runes etched in stone, just partially visible in the gloom. "Is that it?" Jessica breathed, her heart racing in hope. As they approached, the darkness began to pulse, feeding off the very fear that had brought them here. And just then, a chilling laughter echoed around them, biting into their souls. "Welcome to the truth," it sneered, a voice rippling through the trees like an insidious wind. Jessica felt ice course through her veins. What lay ahead would test every ounce of their courage. Would they dare uncover what had remained hidden for so long? The shadows loomed larger, and she knew one thing for certain. They were not alone. Could they reveal the truth before it swallowed them whole? The ancient stones waited, whispering secrets in the dark. What was lurking behind those sinister carvings, itching to break free? The laughter twisted through the trees, snaking around them like vines, wrapping tighter with each passing heartbeat. Jessica instinctively took a step back, but Jack pulled her forward, eyes blazing with urgency. "We can't stop now. Those words, whatever they might be, are only hope." With a shaky breath, Jessica pressed on, her instincts screaming at her to flee. The carvings pulsed with energy, almost alive in the suffocating darkness. Symbols danced like restless spirits, flickering under the scant moonlight. They were not just ancient runes. They seemed to hold secrets that turned in tandem with her thoughts. "Focus," Jack shouted, shaking her from her trance. "We need to read them, find a way to use them." The group hesitated, fear clinging to them like the shadows around their feet. Jessica felt compelled to step closer, her fingers brushing against the cold stone. "Maybe they're a language? A spell?" she whispered, uncertain yet drawn to the mystery. Suddenly, the air thickened, almost crackling, as if the very fabric of reality opened to their presence. The creature's growl echoed through the trees, a distant reminder that time was not on their side. "Faster!" a voice cried from behind. They had to decipher this before it got worse. Rows of intricate symbols glimmered where the moonlight dared to peek, and Jessica squinted, desperate for clarity. "What does the truth mean in all of this?" she murmured. "2 syllables," Jack said, eyeing her intensely. "Truth can be divided. There's a connection." His eyes widened, and Jessica felt anticipation flicker in her chest. The hidden words. Maybe if we combine them, we could. A sudden rustling nearby sent them all jumping. Jessica spun, heart pounding, to see the creature emerging from the trees, its form undulating with shadows, its eyes burning with hunger. "Stay together," she barked, moving instinctively to shield Jack as the group huddled tighter. "Find a right combination. I can feel it." Jack's voice rang with conviction, but the glimpses of fear behind his stare told another story. "Focus." She had to focus. As the creature advanced, they all took a collective breath, pushing their bodies closer to the carvings. "Look," Jessica shouted, pointing towards a symbol that seemed to resonate with the rest. It was almost like it was glowing. "That must mean something. Let's try it," Jack exclaimed. They pushed the fear out of their minds for just a moment, raising their hands toward the symbol in unison. An explosion of light surged from the carvings, intoxicating in its brilliance, casting aside the shadows as it erupted around them, illuminating the darkness with an almost holy light. Jessica gasped as words the ancient text swirled like mist, flipping and twisting through the air around them. "I can see it," Jack shouted, eyes wide in awe. "The words are unlocking." But as the creature howled, enraged by the light, the defiance spilled into something horrific. It lunged again, twisted and malicious, but just as it reached them, the brightness enveloped everything in a blinding wave. Then, silence. The oppressive darkness vanished, replaced with a sparkling void. Jessica felt weightless, as if she were floating in a dream. Was this the truth they were seeking? Or a new nightmare altogether? Voices echoed, soft and distant, weaving through her mind. "You think you can challenge the shadows? You don't understand what awaits you." And just like that, the light flickered, threatening to fade, leaving them on the brink of an unfathomable abyss. Jessica's mind raced. They had opened something, but what was unleashed now threatened to tear them apart. What had they set in motion? As the encroaching darkness loomed, she was struck by a chilling thought. Were they jigsaw pieces in a game beyond their control? The void pulsed ominously, and among the unseen whispers, a realization locked into place. The real challenge wasn't just the creature stalking them, but the truth they had unearthed. Would they be able to harness it before it consumed them? Or would the truth they revealed end up being their undoing? Light flickered, simmering like fading stars, before everything went dark. A heavy silence wrapped around Jessica and her friends like a funeral shroud. They stood frozen, feeling the oppressive weight of uncertainty pressing against their chests. "Is anyone there?" Jessica's voice broke the stillness, barely rising above a whisper. The void felt alive, pulsing with unrelenting energy, pulling at the edges of their sanity. "Jessica? Jack?" came a voice, distant yet familiar. It was Sarah, her friend, but she sounded far away, lost in the endless dark. "I'm here," Jack shouted, his tone sharp with desperation. "We need to find each other. Where's that light?" Sarah's fear-stricken voice cut through the void, grounding Jessica. "We can't stay in this darkness." With an instinctual pull, Jessica reached out, feeling for Jack's warmth. "I can't see. What is happening?" The panic clawed at her throat. "I don't know, but we have to remember what we saw." Jack responded, his determination unwavering even in the face of dread. "It was our only shot, it still is. Right focus on the symbols," Sarah exclaimed, her voice growing steadier. There was something about them. They felt important. Together, they closed their eyes, desperately grasping at the fading memory of the light, of the symbols that had danced before them. As silence enveloped them, their shared thoughts became a fragile thread, stitching them back together. Suddenly, a soft glow broke through the darkness, bathing them in a gentle light. The symbols flickered back to life, hovering just out of reach like fireflies in a moonlit meadow. "What is that?" Jessica breathed, her heart racing again, but not from fear this time. There was a glimmer of hope. As the light grew stronger, the creature's growl echoed once more, but it sounded different, feral and desperate. It seemed to be caught in the glow, unable to breach its confines. "It's trapped," Jack shouted, a wild grin spreading across his face. "We control this now." But the moment was fleeting. The creature howled, a sound more terrifying than anything they had encountered. It pierced through the light, resonating with primal fear. More than mere hunger, it was rage, unleashed and raw. Each note a warning. Jessica's heart thundered as she recalled the essence of truth. The words, "What if they could bind it?" She murmured, "If we combine what we learned." The light pulsed, inviting her as she focused, ready to harness their newfound understanding. "We can rewrite the truth," she yelled, urgency surging in her veins. "Let's channel it together. For the truth to be right, it must bind." Jack and Sarah exchanged glances before nodding, determination glimmering in their eyes. They raised their hands high, focusing on the swirling light and the symbols that hung before them. As they channeled their collective energy, the symbols surged, spinning wildly but with purpose. Together, Sarah cried, and they called upon the ancient words, each syllable a tangible thread. We bind you, creature of night. By the truth, we command you. The ground trembled as the creature's growls morphed into a furious roar. The light enveloped them tightly, even as shadows all around writhed, furious attempts to pull them back. What if it's too late? Jessica thought, panic rushing through her like icy water. Would their attempt to harness the light only provoke the creature more? Then, with a deafening crack, the darkness shattered like glass, bursting forth into 1,000 brilliant shards. They stood on the precipice of an unknown realm, fear and hope colliding within them. But would this new light give them the power they needed, or plunge them deeper into the abyss? As the last shadow fled, a chilling whisper lingered in the air, echoing their struggles. You awaken those who should not stir. The chill ran down Jessica's spine. They were not just facing a creature anymore, they were intertwined in a battle far larger than their understanding. What had they truly set into motion? As dawn approached, bringing both uncertainty and fractured hope, the question loomed. Heavily, would the truth help or haunt them, guiding their next steps and what awaited them in the light? The light shimmered, a kaleidoscope of color bending the edges of reality around Jessica, Jack, and Sarah. They blinked at the brilliance, their hearts pounding audibly in their chests, the remnants of terrifying roars echoing in their ears. What has happened? Sarah gasped, disbelief painting her features. Jessica could barely speak. I don't know, but it's beautiful. The landscape they found themselves in was surreal. It looked like a forgotten dream. Vibrant forest glades intertwined with nebulous clouds swirling above. Yet the air was laced with an unshakable tension, like a held breath before disaster. Jack took a step forward, his eyes darting left and right. This is where the light took us. But what does it mean? A crack everywhere echoed behind them, shattering their moment of tranquility. They turned to see the darkness coalescing into shapes twisted in anger, shadows clawing at the remnants of light. Stay together, Jessica shouted, grabbing hold of both their arms as she felt the shadows reach for her. The darkness twisted, forming grotesque figures that writhed and snarled, hungry for the light they had found. Remember the symbols, Jack urged, panic flooding his voice. They must have power here too. Focus, Sarah yelled, fisting her hands as symbols danced in her memory like smoke. What if we used them again? To create a barrier? Together again. Jessica's heart raced, the words flowing out almost instinctually. We can shape this. We can find strength in our truth. The trio stepped closer, forming a tight circle as the shadows lunged. The figures were now almost upon them, clawing at the edges of their vision, shrieks vibrating in the very air they breathed. Jessica could feel the heaviness of dread pulling her down. Now, Jack shouted as he raised his hands, fingers trembling. Words erupted from their mouths, powerful and urgent. We are the light. We are the truth. We multiply in our strength. The symbols erupted anew, glowing against the white-hot tide of darkness. They spiraled, swirling like a protective cyclone, merging with their voices to banish the encroaching shadows. It worked. The shadows hesitated, clawing against the barriers. A sickening growl echoed as they recoiled, overwhelmed by the power of their words. But the moment of victory was cut short. The darkness shifted, revealing a more monstrous form forming in the heart of the shadow, an entity much larger and more dreadful than any that had appeared thus far. It seemed to pulse and breath with a life of its own. What is that? Sarah whispered, terror coating her voice. Jessica could barely breathe. Something worse. The Titan of darkness stretched out glistening claws, each flicker sending a wave of fear through the trio. It loomed closer, eyes like two gaping abysses reflecting their own panic. Don't look into its eyes, Jack yelled, desperation wrapping around his chest like a vice. We need to hold strong. But as they prepared to bring the symbols to life again, a vast weight pressed down on them, a collective sense of dread, threatening, to nullify their resolve. "Where are we?" Jessica's voice trembled as she scanned for an escape. The air pulled away from her lungs, suffocating in its malevolence. Beyond the veil where light battles darkness, the creature rasped, its voice a chaotic chorus of whispers and howls. Before they could react further, it lunged with unimaginable speed. Time seemed to pause as darkness rippled through the air, drawing ever nearer. Jessica felt a cold sweat form at the nape of her neck. Would this be the moment they failed? Would they finally fall into that abyss? Then she found herself gripping Sarah's wrist tightly. Their eyes met, a flicker of determination ignited between them, an unyielding vow to not give in. "Together!" she screamed. "This isn't over." But as they raised their hands once more, darkness roared again, this time demanding their attention completely. Would the symbols hold true? Would their connection be enough to stave off the coming night? The answers lurked just beyond their reach, hidden in shadows, whispering secrets of destruction. The darkness lunged, a tidal wave of terror crashing toward them. Jessica's heart thundered in her chest, the sound blending with the growl that reverberated from the creature. Fear coursed through her veins, but she gripped Sarah's wrist tighter, feeling the warmth of resolve in her friend's flesh. "Speak," Jack urged, his voice cutting through the chilling silence that followed the monster's advance. The symbols glowed at their feet, eager for their command. "Now, we fight," Jessica shouted, and even as she spoke, the shadows clawed at her, tendrils of despair wrapping around her legs. She fought against the suffocating grip, swallowing her fear. "The light is stronger," Sarah yelled, raising her hands. "We want to let fear take us." They focused on the symbols, and with their combined voices, a shimmering barrier erupted around them. It pushed against the beast's advancing form, the air crackling with energy. A bright flash erupted, momentarily blinding them. But the light was dimming, flickering against the enormous shadow. "It's too strong. We need more." Jack's eyes widened in panic as he looked at his friends, desperation etched on his face. "Draw from each other," Jessica cried. "Join our strength." With that command, they each closed their eyes, feeling their hearts beat in sync, thump, 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 thump. Breathing together, they drew from the sparks of hope and friendship, murmuring the symbols in unison. Each word resonated through the air, binding them in an unbreakable thread. As they immersed themselves in the symbols, the darkness roared, vibrating with rage. The creature seemed to swell, growing larger, its gaping mouths lined with teeth like jagged rocks. "Shut out," Sarah shouted, forcing her voice to overpower the sound of the abyss. "We are not afraid." With those words, a shimmer swept through them, a wave of golden light erupted from their circle. The shadows recoiled, howling as the brightness surged forward, illuminating the monstrous titan. It faltered, its form flickering like a flame in the wind. Jessica's eyes widened. "We're doing it. It's working." But the victory was short-lived. The darkness seemed to pulse, feeding from the fear they had just fought off, morphing into a more grotesque shape. Tendrils whipped around the barrier, searching for weakness. "No!" Jack screamed as one of the shadows broke through with an ear-splitting shriek. It shot forward, claws swiping at him. "Move!" Jessica yelled, instinct kicking in. They quickly sidestepped together, but not without feeling the icy caress of the shadow as it brushed past, its essence chilling them to the core. "Focus," Sarah urged, her voice trembling. "We can't let it separate us. We need to hold the symbols, keep them alive." Just as the creature withdrew its claws, a sudden realization flooded Jessica's mind. "The emotions. We need to channel what we feel," she breathed. Fear turned into strength. With a fierce determination, each one dug deep into their innermost sentiments. Jessica closed her eyes, envisioning her home, the warmth of her mother's hugs. Jack thought of his little brother, his laughter echoing in his mind. Sarah conjured memories of summer days spent in open fields, shrieks of joy carried by the wind. "Light means love," Jessica shouted, drawing strength from within. Fear can't live here. Let it in, Jack roared, as they merged their energies into the spiraling symbols again. The very air they shared crackled with promise as the light expanded outward. The shadow beast shrieked, its form contorting in agony. You think love can defeat darkness? It hissed, its voice becoming a chaotic storm. Watch us, Sarah yelled, her voice a clarion call that rang with confidence. And with one final, thunderous chant, they unleashed their combined power. A blinding light exploded forth, momentarily illuminating the world around them, drowning the darkness under a tide of purity. As everything faded to white, Jessica braced herself, unsure of what awaited them on the other side. Would they find a new reality, or were they on the edge of something worse? Then, just as suddenly, the light flickered, and with a low groan, they felt the ground tremble beneath their feet. The question hung in the air. What lay awaiting them when the light faded? The blinding light receded like the tide, leaving a veil of uncertainty in its wake. Jessica blinked, her eyes struggling to adjust. Where were they? The air felt heavy, dense with the echo of their battle. A chill crept up her spine as she scanned their surroundings, instantly aware that something was terribly wrong. They stood on a barren expanse, the ground cracked and dry beneath them. A dark sky loomed overhead, swirling with ominous clouds that threatened to consume the last vestiges of light. Jessica faltered, fear squeezing her chest. Is this it? No, Sarah gasped, shaking her head. This can't be before she could finish. The shriek of the creature shattered the silence, reverberating through the twisted landscape. It caused the ground to tremble violently beneath them, and Jessica's heart raced. Shadows danced at the edges of her vision, darting in and out like hungry wolves. We must stand together, Jack shouted, his voice strained but resolute. Whatever happens, we have to keep our light strong. As if to mock them, the shadows coiled around their feet, wrapping around their legs like serpents seeking to drag them down. Jessica could feel the icy tendrils squeezing, each tug amplifying her pulse. It's still here, she cried, panic rising in her throat. Sarah raised her hands, a glimmer of determination shining in her eyes. We didn't fight our way through the darkness just to lose ourselves again. Remember what we felt. Love, hope, that's what they can't take from us. The three of them formed a tight circle, squeezing their hands together. As fear clawed at the edges of their resolve, Jessica felt a flicker of warmth inside her chest. Her mother's hug, Jack's brother's laughter, summer days all surged back. This time, they would not just channel their emotions. They would harness the very essence of the bonds that intertwined their souls. Let us lift the darkness, Jessica shouted, drawing in a breath, fueling their connection. Light is more than just energy. It's our memories, our laughter. No more doubts, Jack cried, his voice resonating with purpose. Only strength. With a united front, they began chanting the ancient symbols once more, their voices merging into a powerful anthem. The air around them shimmered, resonating with their energy, a brilliant golden light igniting from their joined hands. The shadows writhed, hurling themselves at the barrier. You cannot fight what you cannot see. The creature's voice echoed, hollow and taunting, but the sound trembled as the glowing light pushed against it. Jessica felt the warmth growing stronger, expanding and illuminating the dark recesses. We can see it. We will see it, she declared fiercely. As the shadows clawed, tearing at the light, tremors shook the ground. The darkness twisted, a grotesque form now looming behind the barrier. It was a pulsating mass of fear and regret, a reflection of everything they had tried to suppress. Why try to overcome me? It screeched. I am a truth you deny. With each word, the shadows flickered and dimmed before the golden light. But just when it seemed they might gain ground, a powerful wave of darkness surged forward, breaking against their defenses. The barrier flickered, wavering at its seams, threatening to break apart. No, Jack shouted, desperation in his voice. Hold on. But the shadows pressed harder, slinking into their thoughts and fears, whispering insecurities that made their hearts race. Jessica wrestled with herself, fighting against the monstrous doubts creeping in. What if they couldn't hold on? What if they failed? Then she remembered. The warmth of her mother, the laughter of Jack's brother. It broke through the internal turmoil, igniting a fierce light within her. Fear has no place here, she shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. Together. We are stronger together, Sarah echoed, her hands glowing brighter as she pushed against the rising darkness. With all they had left, they channeled every ounce of strength into the shimmering barrier, the light surging forth like a tidal wave against the shadows. But would it be enough to hold back the truth lurking just beyond their reach? And then it struck an immense force colliding with their shield, and the world around them spun into chaos. What lay on the other side of this reckoning? Would they break through or be consumed completely? As the world around them cracked and splintered, the darkness roared like a raging storm, clawing and tearing at their delicate shield. Jessica felt the sharp bite of dread settle deep in her chest, making each breath a struggle. "We can't give in," she shouted, her voice ringing clear through the chaos. "We can do this." Together, they chanted, voices rising and blending into a single, powerful chant that surged through the shadows. They pictured the warmth of their kindness, their laughter, clinging tightly to those threads holding onto the memories that grounded their sense of self. The light surged outward, buoying their spirits even as the dark titan pressed down on them. "Just hold on," Jack shouted, determination blazing in his eyes as he pressed forward, fighting the shadows clawing at his mind. Each flickering memory transformed into energy, feeding their resolve. Suddenly, a flash of blinding light erupted from their hands, cracking the darkness like a shell. Jessica's heart raced as the glow expanded. The creature let out a visceral shriek that sent a quaking ripple through the ground beneath them. It was a defiant and primal sound, filled with rage and desperation. But the light pushed forward, relentless, breaking through the obsidian haze that sought to devour them. "Now!" Jessica yelled, her voice piercing through the noise. "With everything we are." They pushed the words out with fierce unity, ready to confront everything that had haunted them. Their combined strength ignited, consuming the echo of the creature's wails, drowning it in a tide of warmth and brilliance. The shadows thrashed violently, attempting to scuttle away, but the light surged, wrapping around like a wave, encasing it completely. The truth exploded against the darkness, shattering the creature's form into sparks of nothingness. Each burst of light struck the core of the entity, forcing it to dissolve into disarray, a cacophony of despair resonating as the being succumbed. "It's working! It's working!" Jack shouted, caught up in a storm of hope. The aura brightened until the shadows were reduced to whispers, losing their form and fading away, swallowed by the radiant force of their unified light. As the cacophony began to quiet, clarity broke through the haze of their minds. A gentle silence enveloped them, the malevolence that had once surrounded them dissolving into the ether. They stood together, hands still linked, breathing heavily. Jessica looked around at her friends, their faces glowing with a mixture of relief and exhaustion. Did we really do it?" she asked, her voice trembling with uncertainty and hope. As if in response, the realm around them began to shimmer. The shadows that had once seemed alive twisted away, revealing a bright dawn breaking through the clouds above a soft glow enveloping everything. "Yes," Sarah breathed, tears flowing down her cheeks, a smile breaking through her astonishment. "We did. We faced the darkness together, and we cast it out. We found the light." Jack exhaled deeply, a weight lifting from his chest, allowing them to breathe in the fresh scent of freedom. The dark sky above faded into a brilliant blue, ushering in glorious streams of sunlight and vibrant colors that danced through the woodland glades. The world felt reborn. But even as euphoria soared in Jessica's heart, a tinge of reality flickered in the back of her mind. "What about the other words?" she asked, feeling the pulse of what they had discovered. Jack nodded, his gaze earnest. The truth is not just about the darkness we faced, but understanding what lies within us. Each of them stood still for a moment, taking deep breaths, their chest rising slowly under the soft warmth of the morning sun. They shared an unspoken bond formed from the battle they had fought, one that would forever characterize their lives in Millfield. "I guess we carry the truth with us now," Sarah said finally, wiping tears from her cheeks. "It's a part of who we are." Jessica's heart swelled with understanding. "And we use it to lift others, to bring light, so shadows can never take form again." We have to remember that courage doesn't mean not being afraid. It means facing what terrifies us. With a renewed sense of purpose, the trio turned back toward their town. They could see people emerging from their homes, disbelief mingling with relief as they witnessed the transformation around them. Morning light poured into Millfield, the dawn after the darkest night. As they stepped forward into their lives, Jessica felt a swell of connection to everything. They had rewritten their story, and now they could share the truth, becoming beacons of hope for those still trapped in their darkness. Together, they would face whatever came next, hand in hand, forever changed by the power of light stemming from unity. "Let us go home," Jack said, and they moved forward with the dawn lighting the way, hearts brave and spirits unbroken. Now, it's your turn to join this journey. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will keep your heart racing. Smash that like button now to give us the love we need to keep thriving. And flood the comment section with all your reactions and theories about this ending. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the light together.